Thank
Pastor Sonny.
you.
So I guess we'll be starting shortly. Good evening, everyone. One is joining.
Okay, Pastor Sonny, please. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Pastor Sonny is on, so he will be muting shortly to get us started. Okay.
Okay. Sorry. Good evening and welcome, everyone. Thank you very much, Architect Leah, for joining us on this very, very important topic. We shall be looking at holding not public officers accountable. My name is Sonny Enedi. I will be filling in. I think Pastor Ichwa may be able to join us much later. And you are all welcome once again to the African Leadership Group, our Nigerian Leadership Series, where we try to interrogate topical issues on a weekly basis. We bring prominent thought leaders, people that have opinions to share. We banter those opinions, we challenge them, and at the end of the day, we're able to provide, some kind of position that we hope that the government is listening to. Even if they are not, we find a way to pass it across to them so that they can hear what we are saying. In the current climate, they say voting in a democracy is just the beginning of it. After the voting, the electorate must never go back and sit down and just watch. They must continue to monitor that the people they have voted are doing what they promised to do when they were campaigning. And if they are not, why are they not doing it? And there are different ways of engaging them. You can write a letter, you can meet them at their community town halls, meetings, if they hold any at all. If they belong to your groups and your churches and your organizations, you can engage them at those forums and then try to see that they actually deliver on what they have promised. Another way is protests, the protest against the way the things are going. These are all allowed in a democracy to make it healthy, because it takes two to tango. That's what makes democracy to really work very well. And so today we have with us, I would say he's a member of the platform. He's not a stranger to us. Somebody that we all know very well. He, famously quotes himself as saying that even if, he's holding a position at the behest of anybody, it's also incumbent on him to do his best to make sure that his principal gets the benefit of appointing him. And if he's not, then he is bold enough to speak out. He's an architect by training. He's actively engaged in social and political endeavors. He's the Director General of the Nigerian Force Project, a campaigner for the Not Too Young to Run movement. He also founded the A1 Foundation, which focuses on, empowering underprivileged people. So today we have with us architect Ezekiel Iya Etok. He is currently the executive director in the Nigerian Housing. Let me get that right now. Is currently the executive director, Estate Services, Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. And he will be talking to us about holding public officers accountable, himself being a public officer. And it's interesting, you know, and so I want all of us to really get ready. Maybe he's the closest many of us we get to seeing a public officer and how to hold them accountable. So architect, you are welcome. Good evening.
Hello, thank you. And it's a privilege, such a privilege for me to be on this group that I hardly miss. Every single week I'm here.
Yeah. You're welcome. So today's topic is a rather interesting one, holding public officers accountable. Given what is happening in the country even right now, would you say what the youth, I mean, so we can go into it gradually. Maybe you can help us, maybe give us an understanding of what, when we say holding public officers accountable, what exactly does it mean? How should we go about it? What exactly are we talking about? You know, who should hold them accountable? You know, and how exactly should we go about it? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, let me start by laying an extremely important foundation.
Yes.
The very first is that it has taken a lot of prayers, I would say, for me to appear on a program like this. And that my earnest desire and wish is that at the end of this program, we would have started seeing some things a little differently. You know, in the backdrop of what had recently happened, a video that showed me that literally went viral, where I asked Mr. President to tackle corruption. The wisest thing, the safest thing for me to have done was to withdraw to my cocoon and just be very quiet. You know, a lot of people have been really bothered. They've been concerned. They were like, are you going to be fired? Are you fired already? What is going on? How could you have said that? Until Arise took it up, and then they came public and said no, that the video was done over a year ago when I was on the other side of the divide. And luckily for me as well, the people that I work with were quick to decipher what, I mean, they knew that, you know, at my level, they expected me to know better. And not just at my level, I'm one of the extremely privileged people because I am in an executive team where we're just 5 of us, and one of us is an in-law of Mr. President, which effectively puts me in a room that I'm extremely close to Mr. President. So if I saw something and I felt passionately about that thing, they expected that the wisest thing for me to do was for me to at least discuss it in-house, and then it will reach the president faster than any other person, rather than going public and making a broadcast. And their anxiety, their apprehension was, as it were, assuaged when they realized that, oh, this was done long time ago. But the coincidences were uncanny. Number one, I started by saying, Mr. President, I've gone through your broadcast, and the president has just made a broadcast. And I also said, Happy New Year, and it was just Happy New Month, and it was just at the beginning of the month. So everything just coincided so perfectly. But the fact is that that video was done over a year ago on the 1st of August 2003, when I was still a candidate of the ADC, you know, so African Democratic Congress. That was long ago. That is the first thing. The second thing is that somehow wisdom, the Bible says, is profitable to direct. Consequently, it would have been almost impossible for me to make certain statements. That said, today, because of where we are and the backdrop of that, I have a unique opportunity to say something that I find extremely important. and it aligns perfectly with the topic in question. I believe that there are two sets of people. People on this side of the divide, where you talk of, I defined as people that occupy office of the citizen, and people on the other side of the divide that I would like to refer to as public office holders. Consequent upon that, the responsibility of the office of the citizen, which is people on this side of the divide, is to hold the feet of the other people to the fire. When I made the broadcast, I was on this side in the office of the citizen, but today I am on the other side as a public office holder. But I cannot forget too soon my feelings when I was on the other side, office of the citizen. And that is why I now say, having come over to the other side as a public office holder, I am in a pole position to say, please, fellow Nigerians, hold the feet of your public office holders to the fire. Consequently, in our discourse today, I'm not going to be talking as when I was in the office of the citizen doing general analysis and situation analysis. I would rather talk in a way that I will want going forward to be the mode of public office holders. You know, this thing about silence and secrecy is destroying our country. It's not good for our country. It's not acceptable and should not be acceptable. When public officers, public office holders know because of say nothing, even what you see, is not okay. Now there are two ways of talking. Because I'm inside the house, when I see something wrong, I communicate internally. But I owe it to the other people to give account of my office. So today's conversation is not supposed to be a public discourse, but the way that public office holders must comply or act going forward. They should not be silent anymore. They don't have to criticize the system because they're already in the system, but they owe it to the public to let the public know the office they occupy, the work they do, and what they have done, and answer questions on their office. So I'm not going to be sitting here, as it were, to say, what is Mr. President doing? What is Mr. President not doing? I expect that people will say, architect, for over 30 years, you've talked about housing. Today, you are in a pole position to talk to Nigerians about housing. And then they hold my feet to the fire. It's true you've been there for about 5 months. Within this 5 months, what is the policy? What's the understanding? I want at the end of this program for people to have a clear understanding of what the housing sector is all about.
Okay.
Ask me hard questions. Put my feet to the fire. Tomorrow, it could be somebody in the health sector, and then we would have had a new perspective of public office holders finding themselves to be accountable to the people. If this is achieved today, then I would have been a very happy person.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that very beautiful intro. I would hold you to that, and we'll really challenge you, and we'll see how far you are willing to go. But the flip side of it, before I go even into the question, is talk. We are short on talk in Nigeria. Talk is cheap. So we can ask you all the questions. You can give us all the beautiful answers. You can hyperfolate and say everything you want, like the politicians have always done. But when they don't deliver, what do we do?
Thank you. Sorry, let me just come in there as well.
Yes.
Please, let's have the two arms. Let's have the talk and the action. That's why I'm saying, bring it on. Hit me hard. it's not where it is all talk. Conclude it's all talk. But where you can see certain things, then go back and give the praise to the man that had confidence in me and was able to give me that position. So I'm really looking forward to hard questions.
All right, let's take it. I will just go short. Can you just give us a synopsis of what's the mandate of the Federal Housing Authority? What are you people set up to do?
Okay, beautiful. Now, housing is one of the three basic needs of man. At the bottom of Maslow's pyramid on human needs, you have food, clothing, and shelter. That makes housing one of the most important, one of the most fundamental, one of the most critical things that any government must pay particular attention to. That is part one. Part two, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Chapter 2, Section 14, subsection 2B states that the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. Taking those two, knowing that the primary purpose of government is the security and welfare of the people, and knowing that housing is at the base of the security and welfare of the people, every government owes it to the people to take housing as a major and fundamental need that must be addressed. It was on account of that in 1973, there was an act of the Parliament, Federal Republic of Nigeria, that said that we must set up an arm that will be responsible for housing delivery. Usually ministries are policy agencies, we know that. But for housing, we need a body that must go into housing delivery, building houses, social housing, commercial housing, luxury housing, all manner of housings for Nigerians. It was on the basis of that the federal government set up the Federal Housing Authority of Nigeria to provide houses for Nigerians, primarily. And then we have as our motto, as it were, unifying Nigerians through housing. That's the byline of the FHA. So we do not only use housing as social infrastructure or as a need, but as a social interface that links Nigerians, that unifies Nigerians, that brings all Nigerians together. So it is a mandate that fulfills both the physical needs of the people and then the emotional psyche of the nation, and then brings out the essence of nationhood, which is built on unity.
Okay, thank you very much. That's very good. But so one will ask, you quoted Abraham Maslow and the hierarchy of needs of human beings, and totally agree. Food, shelter, food, clothing, and shelter. Shelter is at the base of it. I don't know. People say a government that has failed woefully to, number one, feed the people. We don't have clothes. We don't have security. If people cannot eat, is it house you want to give them? Do you understand? So which do we take in order of things? I know housing is important, but a man will rather eat than, like Abraham Maslow law states. So I'm not saying that because we are not eating enough, people that need house should not have a house. Okay, but this is where we are. Everybody is left to their own device in this country. So yes, I've had the mandate of the ministry and what we are doing. I guess my real question is...
Oh, you mean of the FHA?
Yes.
Of the authority?
Of the FHA, sorry, not the ministry. My real question is, have you guys done an assessment of the housing gap deficit in this country? Because we don't even know how many we are. A lot of people are still arguing about that. Or are we just producing, knowing that no matter what you produce, there are enough people to consume the houses? Do we know where the deficits are? Do you have a plan on how you want to go about this housing? Do you want to build more houses in the urban areas, or is it in the rural areas? What is the plan? So I've asked a bit of a convoluted question there, but I hope you get the drift.
I definitely get the drift.
Yes.
You see, there is the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, and there's the Federal Housing Authority.
Mm.
I was privileged before now to have been a vice chairman for the National Housing Policy and the National Urban Renewal Update and Policy. That policy sought to address the issues that you have just enumerated. Do we have a housing gap? What should be the plan of government? You know, government works on policies. It's on the basis of policies that you have government programs, you know, where government runs properly. So for today, the Ministry of Housing has succeeded. You know, when we're to do the census, one of the major components of the success, probably for the first time, is the housing census as a part of the census that we are supposed to be doing. So the ministry has taken that up as a basis, because you cannot do planning without data and statistics. That's one major problem that we've been having. So the ministry is working on that on a policy basis. But I happen in my directorate, I happen to be the executive director, Estate Services Directorate. Within the estate services, you have invested with the responsibility of getting lands, doing the preliminary profiling, and then marketing. And of course, in charge of all the estates in Nigeria. And FHA has a lot of estates. Festac is under FHA. Satellite 2 is under FHA in Lagos. Gwarimpa is under estate, FHA is one of our estates. We have about 40, 50 estates right now. But being the person responsible for, now we have new estates, which I believe we're going to come to, because I must give specifics and timelines in this discourse for it to be not just another talk shop and what's been done, what we are about to do. But by the time you put all this, for me to be able to say in Akwa Ibom, we want to build 2,000 housing units, there must be a basis. In Bayelsa, or in Katsina, or in Maiduguri, or in Bama, or in Kontagora, any of these places, how many houses do we want to build that are not estates that are just going to be either not enough, better not enough, or oversupply, becoming a political tool and instrument? So I think that I'm going to be able to answer those questions specifically as they come. And at the risk of sounding immodest, I think I'm ready. And why I'm ready is because, you know, when you there are some products that are difficult to sell, man, very difficult to sell. But when you have a good product, you're kind of upbeat and sounding, you know, very, very upbeat, which is what I hope that this program will give me the opportunity to get done by the end of today.
All right. Okay, let me drill down first into your ministry into your agency, before we come to generally holding public officers accountable, because you seem to be very passionate in that regard. I asked you, do you have the data of the housing gap? I think from your answer, you know, that was supposed to come on the back of the census. Since census didn't happen, my assumption is that you don't have the data. So well, I don't know if I'm right. You can correct me if that's not the correct answer.
You know, people talk about half truth.
Yes.
Or a glass that is half full or half empty. You are not wrong, but you are not wrong, but you're not exactly right.
Okay.
I'll tell you why.
Tell me.
The first is that while we are waiting for the policies of government that gives us the data and everything, on our own, what we've gone ahead to do as somebody who's been in this area, and I know the challenges what we have over the past. We're in office. We came into office effectively in February, so we have the midway February. So March, April, May, June, July, August we are in. So like just between 5-6 months that we are on this program. About 3 months, the first thing that we set out to do was that we cannot continue an FHA that is, you really can't tell where we are. At this point, I would say that, I don't know, maybe it's an act of divinity, but anybody you ask in FHA will tell you that we are having the sort of executive management team that they've never had. Number one is that we're all professional, absolutely professional, all of us. I can talk to you about each of the 4 EDs and the MD. ED Business Development was an ED with Federal Mortgage Bank. That means he is in the housing subsector. The ED Finance and Housing Finance and Administration is one of the dons in the finance industry, chartered and has the highest professional qualifications. ED PI project implementation was an 8-time commissioner in Osun State, commissioner for works, ICT. He is an engineer that's hands-on. And then myself here, our MD, apart from having been in the National Assembly, has been a major player in the housing subsector. So he brings both knowledge of institutional memory and reforms and capacity, legislative, and practical knowledge of what the housing subsector is and how it operates. So we have become a team. And a lot of things, I could say 1, 2, 3 things that Nigerians need to hear, and they'll be happy. Usually in FHA, more often than not, people get there and it's like, where are the lands? Where are the houses? Allocation of lands and this and that. Since we entered for 6 months, we have not allocated 1 land. 1, we have not. You cannot keep eating cake that has been baked and don't expect that it will not finish. Rather, if you go ahead to bake the cake, it becomes bigger. So we said, let's bake the cake. Number 2, by the time we came into office, we met about, I can say this publicly because we owe you to tell you where we are so that you can start to see certain things and then draw informed conclusion. When we came in, we met a purse of about 400 million or a little less about that. I want to tell you that in 5 months, we have in our coffers a minimum of about 4 billion, from about 400 million to about 4 billion. And that's because TSA has already taken about half. That means effectively within this short period, we have generated close to 8 billion. How did we do that? Yeah. Because there are revenues. We are not in the budget. We're not in the budget. We're not at all. There are revenues that you need to work to get out instead of just getting down. And, we've also had, I'm in charge of lands and houses. And I will tell you with every sense of responsibility that one of the biggest headaches I've had so far is lands that have had double allocation and in some instances, triple allocation. So you can imagine the number of litigations that we are having, the amount of money we are spending, all sorts of things because we are not digitalized. I discovered somewhere along the line that it was not, a good part of it was out of mischief and insincerity and corruption. But there were some that were simple, what I would call human error because of our limitation on stacking of facts and statistics and data. So the MD said we must go in a direction of digitalization. As we speak, all our files have been scanned. All our files, all our systems are processes have been digitalized. What that means is that I can sit here in Uyo where I am right now, press a button, and then know that 3 people or 2 people have access to the same land. So what we now do is the law of first allottee. Like what happened in First Tank, one of the issues that I handled before now. A man came and said this was his land. Another person came and said this was his land. So we now did a simple thing. We now went into the system. When were you allocated? And it showed that one was allocated, maybe I think it was in 2004. But because the documentations were not properly done, another that same land was reallocated to another person in 2011. So when the 2 people came, we just told them, we went straight to the bank. I wrote a letter to the bank brought a printout, and I just showed the 2 of them. Sir, there was a mistake. This land was actually allocated and payment made. And because everything was extremely transparent and verifiable, we were able to resolve the matter. Let's believe that it must have been human error. So you that paid in 2011, the law of first allottee gives that land to the person that paid in 2004. So what we are going to do is to resettle you so that you don't lose, because there's also evidence that you paid, your money. Now, because we came in with facts, data that were verifiable, they were happy and the matter was resolved. So with our digitalization, we are seeing the double allocations. And some of the double allocations that we've seen, we've tried to contact the people, and as of now, we are doing land verification, asking everybody that has land in FHA, estates, or layout, come and re-verify your land or your houses. So at the end of this exercise, that is supposed to be about 3 months, no Nigerian will lose sleep over any land or house that they have with Federal Housing Authority, because everything is being done now transparently, being done digitalized, and we'll be able to give each person a digital imprint, and you can go to bank with any of FHA, documents that you have. That's the second thing that we've done. But the most interesting thing as at now is you can't do anything about housing except you have land. So we embarked on one of the most audacious land bank exercises that I've known in my adult life. And I talk as somebody who is well informed. As at now, within about 3 months, we have visited, not just sitting in the office and writing letters. We have visited, and the team that visits, virtually in every team, out of 4 EDs and 1 MD, there is a minimum of 3 EDs, sometimes all the 4 EDs, and the MD has been a constant in all of them. We go to every state. We sit down with the governor, get into a partnership. We show them what we are doing, what we want to do. We ask them for what they need, their need assessment, and then we are able to arrive at something. Sometimes we spend 3-4 hours with the governor and his team. And at the end of the day, the governor says, I'm going to give you land at this place. We go to that land and see. And sometimes the land is not good enough. And we say, sir, sorry, we can't take this because we're not into all this political stuff. We want land that will be inhabited. But I will say, to the glory of God and to the praise of all the governors, that virtually every governor has given us prime land. As we speak today, I'm in Uyo. That's because our governor gave us land on Airport Road, 7 minutes to the airport, directly on the road. Prime land, 50 hectares. So we are now interfacing with the people. From here, I'm going to Cross River. From there, I'm going to Abia. From there, we go to Port Harcourt, River State. Then we now move to the other. So we are not sitting in the office and telling stories. We are going to these places. And 2 things just before I leave this matter, because The people need to know. As you criticize Mr. President, you also need to know that something is actually being done, because I don't know how the other ones operate with Mr. President. I don't know. But I know that in our own case, the president pulled our ears just about at the beginning of this week, on Monday, Tuesday, just before the end of about a week ago, just before the strike started, the protest started, the minister, who was a former MD of Federal Mortgage Bank, being a major housing player, called us to drill us on specifics on what we have done, specific details, the game plan that we have, how we are executing it, where we are as of today, what our projections are. And by the time we spent about 1 or 2 hours with the man, I think that he was able to say, I can see you guys have the game plan, you have a direction, go ahead and let's see the next phase. You've collected land. What is the next phase? And why was the delay till now? We said, Honorary Minister, you know more than we do that we are not on budget. We are not on federal allocation. Why would we go and start advertising to build houses when we don't have money? We won't do that. That would be deceiving Nigerians. So as of today, we have enough money for the houses that we want to build, and we've allocated them professionally. So if we are coming to build 200 units in maybe Kafanchan or in Maiduguri, we have money budgeted for that. So we are acting professionally. Finally, it will blow your mind to know that 2 things. Number one, as executive directors, we are using the old project HELOCs of the last administration. That's what we are using. None of us has any of these SUVs, Prados. Who wouldn't like to have, one of those funky black stuff, they call it government Black Maria, But we asked ourselves, is this what we came in here for? Guy, Akitengedo, you have cars. Remy, you have cars. Is it Dr. Matthias? You have cars. Or Mr. Duncan, you have cars. Use your car. So we are using the old, either our personal cars or the old project vehicles that were in the last administration. That's what we are using. So we are practical. We are
So very,
focused.
very, very good. Thank you very much for all you are saying, So this is what Nigerians have been demanding. So is it too much if you are doing this in just a subset of a ministry? Imagine what will happen to the country if every other agency, ministry, legislator, and presidency were to do this. So Nigerians have been saying this to the president: cut your cost of governance. You had a private jet before you became president. Let me not put you on the spot because I don't want you to talk about Mr. President. Let's just remain on this topic and see. So you guys are setting the example of what we are talking about that people should do. But let me come back to the questions. You said Nigerians will be very happy if we hear what you want to do. I want to say that Nigerians are tired of hearing. What we want to see, what we want to do is see. There was a certain governor in Nigeria who did very well in his state. And when he became minister, there was a lot of expectation from him. But he told us stories and stories and stories. And he left there. The story is still continuing in those ministries and agencies. We haven't seen the result. So I feel your passion, and I know that you really want to do. But, sir, it's not entirely up to you. There are other factors that you need to work with. How will you assure those of us on this platform and Nigerians that will subsequently hear you that the system will not cage you and frustrate you? And at the end of the day, you will start telling us, I did my best. We had the vision. We had the plan. That is where we have always been.
Okay. Now, this question this answer I'm going to give can put me in trouble.
Don't
think that
answer it if you don't.
No, brother, cool down, Mike. Don't worry. Don't take Panadol for my headache.
Okay.
You understand me? I came to this program thoughtfully so. And if this program helps to get people thinking a little differently, I would have achieved my aim.
Yeah.
You know, there's something that the Bible says. I'm surprised that I've not said the Bible says up to 50 times by now, because I'm always saying, because my life is actually wrapped around the Bible. That's my life. My guy, two things. First is that my being an ED where I am today is nothing short of a miracle. Nothing short of it. I'll tell you this, there are several people on this call who are listening. I said now at the very least 50 directly, don't talk of the others. No. I was not in APC, number one. Number two, I was not a supporter of Mr. President, right? Number three, in the whole of South, South, Southeast, they needed one person, and I was privileged against all odds to be there. I think that even God will not forgive me if I do not do two things. Number one is be the person that I've always touted myself to be, and that is a Nigerian that is passionate about Nigeria. On account of that, there was a lady called Esther in the Bible. Something was there that affected her nation, Israel. And she made a statement. That statement haunts me every single day. She said, go and fast and pray for me. I will also fast and pray. And I'm going to do it. If I perish, I perish. On account of that, I am going to do what I believe is in the best interest of Nigeria and Nigerians. I'm not going to take my job as what I'm going to hold on to. So long as I'm not being stupid, I'm not being unreasonable, I'm not being unwise, because there are certain things I will not say on this program, no matter how much I'm pushed, because it is unwise to say that. Just to be popular. You know, my video went so viral, it went so much that I could have become a darling of the nation by playing to the gallery and saying certain things.
Didn't you make money from it? Usually I hear when videos go viral, you make plenty of money. You must be a millionaire.
I wish I knew how to. You know, all those people, they didn't come to me. All those people, they didn't come to me and tell me, oh, guy, there's a way you could have made money. But you know, what I'm trying to bring up is this. I could never have made such a video as a public office holder. Never. Never. Because it wasn't wise to do that.
Yeah.
But I have no regret making such a video as an occupier of the office of the citizen. Yes, you must hold the feet of the public office holders to the fire. That is the job of the office of the citizen. It's not protest.
All right. I know there are a lot of people. Okay, go ahead. Conclude on your thoughts,
yeah. So basically, I'm going to answer any question that will help Nigerians to see a way forward, not minding the consequences to me. But let me say this.
Yes.
Let me say this.
Yes.
I think I owe the president.
Yeah.
I owe the president to commend him publicly for the level of maturity, because a minimum of 5,000 people sent that video to the president, and they expected that the president, the next day, would now say, remove him from office. But the president was mature enough to listen to it. And why did he put me in that office? Since when he was governor of Lagos State, He's always heard me talk about housing, 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 housing. The man is just the look like now, so he does the look. Oh. He said, forget about waiting he talk for video. My own is, let me see how this guy is going to join the MD and their team to deliver housing. Let's give them. So for me, the challenge is not what I said though. The challenge is how do I make sure I justify the confidence that Mr. President has on me, which is the question you've asked. At the end of, we're just there for about 6 months. At the end of 1 year, what will I have to show? That is where my challenge is, and not whether I will lose my office. Jesus said, if you want to keep your life, you will lose it. But if you are willing to lose your life for me, you will get it back and much more. So for me, I'm willing to lose my office if it means doing the right thing, saying the right thing that will help this country. I'm willing to lose the office because office is not as important as the essence. The essence,
Absolutely.
Nigerians want me to give them houses.
All right.
And
Okay.
not to hold on to office.
All right. I will allow, I see Femi Olowe's hand has been up, and I know Jumoke has a few questions, but let me ask this, and I have a myriad of questions, but we'll detour and pivot at the end of the day. Is how can Nigerians, okay, will you institutionalize a platform where you can give us update? Glad that you spoke about going digital, because government is very opaque in this part of the world. Everything is like secret. We shouldn't know. Nobody wants to tell us what is going on and all of those things. Even when we have an issue with your ministry, you know, we have to go and look for somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. Thank God that you handled the issue you said you handled. I can imagine if it had gone to some other officers as it used to be, they know the truth, but they will keep dilly-dallying and going up and down. So how can Nigerians now have confidence in that system? At least let's talk about your FHA, that
Yes.
if I have an issue, for instance, there's where I can go to and I can trust the system to work as it were. And then I can get information easily and freely. Not that some people are holding the form when they start selling land or selling house. What are you guys, looking at in that regard before I yield the floor to some other people to ask questions? Yeah.
One, Honorable Oyetunde Ojo, as the MD CEO, has said that in the next 6 months maximum, there will be no physical files in FHA again. I'll tell you this. One of my staff told me that he went to the bank, not to the bank, to the court to defend the case. And when he was talking, the lawyer was just looking at him because he had no access to the file. They looked for the file, they couldn't find the file. So when he was defending, he was just rambling. When he finished, the lawyer took him to his car, opened his boot, and showed him the file that he was looking for. He showed him the complete file. He said, my guy, let me tell you something. In FHA, all I need is 20 minutes and 50,000. Any file I want, I'll get the complete file out. I am in charge of lands, and I can tell you the wahala that we have. A few bad eggs. FHA has amazing staff. I can tell you that for free. But, you have a crate of eggs of 24, and just one is rotten. By the time you bring it into the house, everybody says, take it back, take it back, take it back. You understand me? Because the one rotten just stinks so much that nobody wants, they just condemn the whole 24. FHA has some of the most brilliant, some of the most committed, patriotic staff, but there were few people that they were so bad that they were rotten and they caused so much problem. So number one is digitalization. At the end of, as at now, we have completed internally. You are going to be able to sit down in your house, log into FHA platform, which is what you're asking for, see your payments, see your outstandings, see your bills, and in the comfort of your home, be able to pay your bills and it will reflect. That is what is done globally by digitalization. This can only be done by somebody who wants to do the right thing. You know, I'll just give you a little example. If you have 100 blocks in one place and 1,000 blocks in another place, and you are to count the blocks. Now, common sense tells you that the man that has 100 blocks will just finish it in no time, you know, but the guy that has 1,000 blocks will not be able to finish it on time. But I'll tell you, the man that has 100 blocks, if he's an insincere person, he's going to scatter the blocks. So he starts counting, pointing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 13, 14, 17, 18. They'll say, no, you've counted that one again. And there's an argument. He comes back, 1, 2, 3, 4. You are counting it twice. No, you have counted. My guy, 2 hours, we are still on counting 100 blocks. But the man that had 1,000 blocks, if he's an honest person, he stacks them in 50s and stacks them in rows. In less than 1 minute, you have counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, by 50, and you can say it is 20 times 50, 1,000. But the last one is just missing by 1 block. So it is 1 short of 1,000 blocks, less than 1 minute. So when we came into FHA, if you wanted to do land racketeering, you leave it the way it was. But because we want to do an honest thing, we now gone into digitalization, where you press a button and every plot has a unique identifier, which must not, if you know your phone, if you want to sort your phone numbers, and there is Udofia Umoren, once you check that Udofia Umoren, you see how many Udofia Umoren, they'll come out together. Do you understand me? Yeah. So we'll be able to sort the plots and see which plots are vacant, which plots have double allocated blue numbers, which plots have 3 numbers. We want to, for the first time, have a clean record in FHA. And I think this will gladden the heart of many people. That is digitalization. That is what we have done. Secondly, we are opening within the month of August, I believe, because we are fine-tuning the last part, we are opening one of the most aggressive portals that we are targeting the young first, home owners, where they'll be able to get the register free. So this is not about bring money, no, free. We will, on the basis of that, embark on what you call affordability profiling. It is on the basis of affordability profiling that we know that this number of people can afford a 1-bedroom per location, maybe in Abuja or in Jos or in Makurdi. So we will be able to, if the governor of Plateau State says, give us 1,000 housing units, we'll show him that affordability profiling shows that only 700 people out of the second 700, this is number for 1 bedroom, number for 2 bed, number for this. He will see it empirically, on the basis of which he can say, okay, since it's only 750, I can take the other 500 or 300 so as to be able to make this 1,000 and be as a social housing kind of concept for these lower cadre people and do that. So we are working as professionals, and that is what we are starting to see in FHA, which has not been in the past.
All right, fantastic. I have many more questions, but so that other people will engage a bit. I think Jumoke she has some questions of her own, and there's Femi Olowe and Mojuba Olu Okume. They have questions for you. So, but Jumoke will handle the Q&A, and we'll come back to the more general public officers accountable. Thank you. Jumoke,
very important.
Jumoke? Okay, it's like Jumoke is not there at the moment. Let's start with...
I'm here, actually. Okay. Can you unmute me? I think I have... can you unmute me on the other side? Thank you.
We can hear you now.
Okay. Sorry, I'm using 2 devices, so let me mute one. Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for... you've really spoken very well, and it's right up my alley. So I'm quite passionate about housing, and even more so standards and codes, ethics, procurement process, and the list goes on and on. But let me start with your reference to Esther, and if I perish, I perish. And I think the concern I have with public officers in Nigeria or government officers is there is this loyalty or allegiance to the president instead of the people. And when I heard you talk about wisdom and that the president would have, are you working for the president or are you working for the people? And pardon me, I may be a bit radical because I live outside Nigeria and I live in the US, so it's a little different. And this is the culture where we feel that our responsibility is to the president as opposed to the people who are the citizens, and they are the employers of even the president is accountable to the people. So I want us, and how can we hold officials accountable if they don't feel they have a responsibility to the citizens and they have a responsibility to the one who, in your case, maybe appointed you to office? I think that is one question that I would like for us to clarify, because without that, citizens are just going to be, quote unquote, making noise because you don't feel you owe them anything. It's the president, the one who appointed you, that you are accountable to. So if you can clarify that, and then I'll ask a few more technical questions before we take those online. Thank you.
Awesome question. The sort of question that as you are listening, you must say, Jesus, help me. You see, there are two sets of people. One is an elected official. The second is an appointed official. An elected official was elected by the people to serve them. An appointed official is appointed by a principal who says, please come and help me actualize my mandate to the people. So what you do is, I'll divert a little bit. I hate the idea of getting an appointment and going for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving for what? Opportunity to go and work or opportunity to go and chop. By going for Thanksgiving, it's like, God, I beg, this thing finally don't reach me. But somebody who is going to work, first and foremost, goes for night vigil, not Thanksgiving, and says, Father, I beg, this thing where I go so, let me not be embarrassed at the end. Let me, like Paul, say, I have run a good race. So at the end, you can now go and thank God. I don't thank God at the beginning, because for you, they don't settle you with that. So directly to the question, you are a public office holder either by election or by appointment. Let me take the one that is by appointment, because that of election is the answer is very straightforward. You're appointed by the people, you work for the people, you owe the people. But as a public office holder that is appointed, you must understand first and foremost that you have a boss, and that the boss called you to come and help him actualize his mandate. It's incumbent upon you to analyze that mandate and ask yourself, what does he want? My understanding is that the president wants me to come and make sure that Nigerians have houses. That's my understanding. And that's the basis on which I took that job. And as a result, I'm going to do everything possible for me to get Mr. President to smell like a rose. But if Mr. President is expecting me to come and just be there and maybe find a way of giving houses to his cronies and his people, guy, he has picked the wrong person. Because I will go back to him and say, oh God, no vex, so it be like say, what do you want make I come do? My conscience don't allow me to do it. So I will not be able to do it. Or I will first tell him, sir, please, you told the people that you will give them houses. So let us build the houses so that the people will know you as an honest person. And if the man insists, my guy, will you just take this thing and shut up and get to your whatever? How many houses do you want? Do you want in Apo? I say, oh, no vex, so I no want house. God will give me house. They say I go come here, they do this rubbish, and at the end, they go abuse you. Say, oh, God, you don't give them house where you promise. Oh, God won't be part of it. So I am saying openly here. But you see, I'm so lucky I can speak this boldly because the president has not sent one person, to the best of my knowledge. And anybody that comes must come to my office, even from the MD. I'm in charge, I'm a custodian of the houses, the land. I am the one that recommends before my MD will now endorse and get it finally. It must go through my table. And I have not seen, and the God I serve bears me witness that I lie not. That means is that Mr. President has given us a free hand, giving us what we need to perform. To that extent, my loyalty to the president is in consonance with my understanding of the essence, which is being able to give Nigerians houses. So for me, it's an easy pick.
So I would say it's a balancing act, in the sense that your desire, this is not about you. Let's now talk about the appointed public officials, that their desire to make the president smelling like a rose is not going to be at the expense of the citizens.
Thank you.
There has to be some kind of balance or convergence of ideas just based on what you have said. And I think that's important to clarify, because I hear a lot of public officials, even the elected and appointed, and their focus is on the president and making the president. And we've enthroned the president as an emperor, as the king, the end all and be all, unquestionable. All power belongs to him after. So I think that's why I wanted us to clarify, to be careful that we're not attributing more power to the presidency than to the people. And that's where we cannot hold public officials accountable if we don't have that balance. So that's why I asked that question. And now let's move a little bit to the technical side, because we're talking about building estates all over the country. And I think a lot of us that grew up in the 60s, know some of the estates that were built and the condition those estates are in now. And as FHA, what is your maintenance plan for those existing? Because we're not going to, we don't want to keep building more and we can't maintain. And the ones that we have right now are an eyesore. I remember when, what's the name of this one in Ikoyi? Dolphin Towers, Dolphin Estate was built. I can't, sometimes it's very difficult for me to reconcile the apartments with what it was back in the 70s and the early 80s. So tell me a little bit about the maintenance culture or the maintenance plan you have for the existing estates. I also want to speak, I want you to please speak about standards. We have challenges right now with buildings, construction. In Nigeria, you talked about professionals in FHA. How are you going to ensure that these buildings or these housing units are built to the highest standards that, you are, as an architect, the codes of ethics around those? How do you ensure this is done when it's not prevalent across the country? So I'll keep those two questions for now, and I know a few others want to ask questions.
Okay. I had a meeting with residents of Festac. Let me take Festac. I had a meeting with residents of Festac, and one man stood up and he spoke from his heart, and tears literally came down my eyes. He said, I left the island to come and live in Festac about 40 years ago because Festac was the signature of all eyes. Festac was the beauty of not just Nigeria, but with the West African sub-region. Festac was the place to be. And as the person that was happening, I came and relocated from the island to Festac. I said today, I regret that decision that I made 40 years ago. Maybe you, anybody that is about 60, will know what Festac was. Today, Festac is an eyesore. Gwarinpa is no better. Lugbe is no better. I could go on and on and on and on about so many estates. I have come in, talk is cheap, as the ED Estate Services responsible for all the estates in this Nigeria under Federal Housing Authority. The first thing that we are doing is setting up what we call sustainability policy. We must have a sustainability policy, and we are working on that. Talk about the sewage, you talk about water, you talk about the roads, the infrastructure. You know, the best way to eat an elephant is to take one bite at a time. I'm not going to tell you we're going to do everything, but we have already mapped out certain things we are going to do, and our intervention have already started. We are taking our estates, and even in our, money that we are getting. I had a meeting with the MD just about 2 days ago, and we agreed as a policy that a percentage of all the monies that we get, whether it is through ground rent or any of those, accruables from each of those states, must be devoted back to the maintenance. We need to have security. We need to have light. We need to have water. We need to have the sewage treatment. We need to have the waste disposal system. We need to have them, and we are taking them one by one. We've done a good profiling. Please, we've only been around for about 5-6 months. Okay? And these are the things we are doing. And I want to tell you, my sister, you see, at the risk of sounding immodest or arrogant, anybody who knows Nyaito knows that I'm a target-driven and absolutely ambitious Nigerian. I was the first Nigerian that got a shelter Africa facility for any state government in this country. I was just 36 years ago. I did the Shelter Africa estate in Uyo. Let anybody go to that estate, they will tell you, wow, this makes sense. I did it when I was 36. Today I'm 60, going to 61. I can't do anything less. And when I leave that office must be brought. You get into an office, you sit and you are so happy. It means that you don't achieve. But when you go to the office, you say, no, this seat's too small. We've got to bring the seat bigger, bigger, bigger. By the time that you leave the office, people know that these estate services has an ED. I am that ambitious. I've prayed for this all my life. I've been into advocacy. Everybody knows me on advocacy. I've been into policies. I was able to give Nigerian the housing policy by the grace of God. The last page is into implementation. So this is not advocacy. I don't pass advocacy. No be policy. We don't pass policy. It is bricks and mortar is implementation.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for that clarification. You've been in office for 5 months. So, and I very, very much appreciate the passion that you're bringing into this office, and we're going to be following you. So you don't have to answer this question, but it's food for thought. In terms of stakeholders engagement and peer review, Nigerians, I always say that our biggest problem is our intelligence, because we are highly intelligent people, but it's really using that intelligence. We're very big picture, and we're not focused on the basic, the fundamental things are too low level for us. I would like to also hear you speak about your plan for engaging maybe other professionals in a consultative manner, whether it's current, by the way, they're very difficult to engage, whether it is the diaspora, those in the diaspora that have an interest in giving back, not in terms of money, to volunteer, to provide their services to support what you're doing. I would like to hear you talk about that in your comments as well. And last but not the least, I would also like to hear you talk about your procurement process for all the services that you're going to be using for implementation, And the reason I ask this is because we're talking a lot as Christians and those that are accountable to God first. So you have that opportunity to set the stage, the standard, not only as a public official, but as in terms of righteousness. So let me just keep that to the side, because there are about a few hands up and I don't want us to hog the space. So we'll take those, and I want you to think about that when we start to close the session. I have Mr. Femi Olowe. Please go ahead with your question. Would appreciate if we can also keep the questions brief so that Architect can answer as many as possible. We have quite a few hands up. Mr. Femi, please go ahead with your question. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, the Architect. Thanks for coming. I have thanks for my second or third question will depend on the answers you give. So first, I want to know what is the place of National Housing Fund? Is your ministry responsible for taking this deduction from employees every month? That's one. The second one, Mrs. Jumoke already started. However, I would like to add to the conditions of the current state that we have. If we must look at it, we know that so many things have changed from 30, 40, 50 years ago. Housing estates have been, set up by the federal government. So I want to ask, you also mentioned income generated from the land used by the tenant. Let's say, for example, this Abesan estate, this Jakande estate. What are the income, either on a monthly or yearly basis, coming to the coffers fuel agency from the house owners now? And if we have anything coming in, I don't want you to be too discreet about it. You can just tell us that, okay, this for 6 flats, we can have between 1 million and 2 million yearly, so that we won't just be going world hunger, thinking that we can do everything when actually we cannot do everything. Because if a block or an housing estate built by the federal government, individuals that are owning the places or the houses cannot manage it, what can the government do? So we need to be realistic. Let me just shut it down. Let me just stop there. Whatever answer you give, determine whatever follow-up question I'm going to have.
Okay.
I hope you.
Thank you. So we're going to take 2 more so that you can answer them in a group. We'll take Professor Kome. Please go ahead, Ma.
Thank you very much. I made my comments. I don't really have questions, except to say, one person doing an excellent job is to be commended. But how is it that there could be the kind of institutionalization that makes it normal for Nigerians to receive this kind of service and this kind of attention to the duty of the bureaucrat without any kind of begging, inducement, back and forth, and without having connections? Apart from that, I want to say that, the way that you were talking about the president is as if a president should be like an emperor. So out of his magnanimity, he would choose not to punish somebody that criticized him. We are in a democracy. In a democracy, people are supposed to speak to the people governing them. Because as you said, guys, Office of the Citizen, these people are working for us, including the president. Yes, we should respect the president, but we should be very frank with the president in terms of criticizing when it is, necessary. So I don't see it as extraordinary that a president would say, oh, you are making sense, and so I'm listening to you, I'm not punishing. The people who punish are the people who shouldn't get into power. And we've made mistakes in Nigeria by putting people over us who act as if they are our emperors. So the few bad eggs logic is also not good enough, because, you know, there should be a norm that when these people, bureaucrats, take office, that they should do their job. And then if they don't, what kind of accountability measures are there to keep them in check? Those things are not working well. There was a time the Nigerian civil service was working decently. Right now, it is broken. And I think your agency cannot be absolved from that, you know, because there will be people, if you really go out and do a poll, you'll find people who have had bad experiences. So how do we stop saying that it's the bad eggs and we really solve the problem? Then digitalization. I like the fact that you want to digitalize, but there's also something known as ransomware. And big corporations have suffered from it. So digitalization is a good tool. It is not a panacea that solves the problem of fraud and all kinds of bad actors. So it is also, you were talking about we shouldn't all be protesting. It's the right of citizens in a democracy to peacefully demonstrate when they have talked to the government and the government is not listening. And Nigerian government don't have a good record of listening to people, especially ordinary people. They listen to the powerful ones. They listen to the business groups. They don't listen to people. They don't even talk to people. They will go abroad to be saying things about Nigeria that they won't say here. So people can peacefully protest. It is a right. It is a human right. It is documented in our constitution that people can do this. So, you know, I think we should all get over it. We're in a democracy.
Thank you very much. We're going to take one more, sir, and then you can answer those three together. Go ahead, Sister Ngozi. Good to see you. Welcome. I've asked you to unmute. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Sir Jumoke. Thank you, Architect Etok. My question is, when you were given your intro, you did say that you've raised the funds. The next thing now is land allocation. That's the next thing that you're going to do. I was wondering that, wouldn't the next thing be to start laying down the infrastructure for these estates, so that at least people will know that, okay, when I am allocated land in this place, there's some infrastructure, the roads, sewage, like you said, water, and all that kind of those things that people would need in the estates, to start laying the infrastructure first before, at least, and then people will know that something is actually that you guys are really serious with this. There is a lot of estates in Nigeria. Things are so unplanned. Someone built a beautiful estate. I remember when Elekahia was built in Port Harcourt, and there were no roads. You're wading through mud to get to these beautiful homes, and within a short while, it was all covered with mud. So, are you going to set down the infrastructure first before you start allocating the land to the people? That's really my question. What's the plan? Thank you.
Thank you. If you could take all those three questions, I would appreciate that. Take the next set.
Mr. Femi,
one second, let me mute everyone.
Yes.
There's interference somewhere.
Yes, please.
I told him if he wins, I'll be interested
go ahead, sir.
the culture there. Because they have very good ground for culture.
Can you hear me? I don't know who that is. I muted everyone.
Livestock. Cambodia. Very good.
1 second, let me just okay. Is this better? Okay. Go ahead, sir. You're muted. You're muted, sir. Can you unmute yourself?
Okay, thank you. On National Housing Fund, that is managed by Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria. There are two agencies under the Ministry of Housing. Ministry of Housing has her functions, which is policy primarily, but under Ministry of Housing, there are two agencies. One is Federal Mortgage Bank, and the other one is Federal Housing Authority. So Federal Mortgage Bank actually manages, the National Housing Fund. It's what they now use as a basis to give to primary mortgage banks, because they don't give mortgages direct. And it's on the basis of that contributors to the National Housing Fund can now benefit through the primary institutions, primary mortgage institutions. So that is a very straightforward thing, which is that the National Housing Fund is being managed by the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, not Federal Housing Authority. The second is the income generated within estates. As much as I would like to tell the public, I think that in all sincerity is not a relevant information to the public, but a relevant information to each of our estates. That is why when we came into office, we now had a very live and definite partnership with all the residents associations or owners residents associations, so that they, within each of the estates, can manage expectations. They will see what is being generated. We are having that interface with them. So what you've asked for is very important, but it's not important for public knowledge. There's a need to know, but it's important for each of the estates to know that if we give you back 90%, 80%, 70% of what we generate within your estate, relative to what you need. If you look at Festac, we need nothing less than 10 billion to make a reasonable impact on intervention on Festac because of the deplorable, state of the roads. But when you look at the income generated from Festac, it is not up to 10%, thereabout. So with that, the residents are now able to say, you know what, let's look at the infrastructure regeneration. If it comes to about 200, 500 million, 1 billion, 2 billion, can we do a partnership contribution so that you will also, as our father, put in something? That's why in most estates, the residents have taken over the responsibility of infrastructure, servicing. But we are setting up our project management, department or section to be able to interface based on transparent analysis of cash inflows from each of these people. So it's a policy that we've adopted, and I want to thank you for that. Then, Prof, the institutionalization of the processes. You see, let us be, like I said, there are two sets of people. There's the public appointees who come from the elected officials. The person that the citizens elected will determine the sort of people that he wants to work with him. So if you look at it, the time has come when we must have a conversation with the citizens. This is not a very, very sexy topic to discuss. But we must know that there are the 3 C's of life. One, the first C is the chances that come your way, chance. The second C is the choices that we make, the choice. And the third C is the consequences of our choices. Today, there's going to be election in Edo State. Who are you going to vote for? The person that you vote for is going to appoint public officers. And his appointment is either going to be, the people gave me a mandate to serve them, or the people exploited me to collect my money and I'm going to go back. So I'm going to recruit, cash agents. Nyeto, please stop all those grammar that you are speaking. The people don't understand grammar. This money and election, I want to get a second term. So please generate income for me for my election. Please do that. Because these people, this is what you're talking, they don't, on election day, they don't hear anything. All they want is money. So please stop this. Even if I don't do anything, by the time I get money for election on election day, I'll give them money, I'll get back my seat. So what is our position? You cannot expect a cat to bark or a dog to meow. We must come as citizens. It is at that point that the person that you vote to office, and you say, oh, no, we don't vote them. They decide, let us go and occupy INEC. INEC, what is the processes? INEC, what are the details? INEC, talk to us. You cannot deviate. If you deviate from what they are telling us, INEC, you find the heat that you will not be able to come out of. When the INEC sees the red of the eyes of the citizens, whoever wins, wins. We want transparent election. The time is now. If we do that, then we can start the process of knowing that a man who is elected on the basis of performance is going to look for performers to appoint. But a man who thinks that it is money is going to look for cash agents to appoint. And all you church people, nice people, you'll be packed because you come and be pontificating and telling us, yeah, when the people don't understand that. Guys, do tax collection, bring me money for election. So I think that the time has come, we need to start to engage the citizens. Okay. Now, when we now come, citizens versus appointee, where you kind of give your loyalty, which we had alluded to much earlier in our conversation, where you talk of the bad experiences, the digitalization, and the limitations. Finally, when you talk of demonstration, I actually have nothing against demonstration, but I ask two questions. Question one, to what end? Question two, whose gain?
Yes.
To what end and whose gain? When you say you want good governance and you say it is exclusively Mr. President, brother, sister, I disagree with you. I disagree with you. Every single local government chairman should have been afraid of this protest. Because good governance is local government. Good governance is state government. Good governance is federal government. The three tiers of government. Good governance is the people in National Assembly, the different houses of assembly. That is good governance. All the political appointees, good governance. FHA, good governance. All the agencies, MDAs, good governance. They should be afraid of good governance protests. But when you limit it to one man, president, and you think that president, you can elect a cent of a president. Governments at the federating units are relatively autonomous, relatively. So when we want to protest, the first question is whose gain? And the second question is to what end? At the end of the day, what do we achieve? Then, Sister Ngozi, please, I think you got me wrong. In FHA, there are two things about FHA, especially this, our own new FHA. We are not all this land allocation is not where we are. So our next phase is not land allocation at all. Our next phase is building houses. We want to build houses. That's why I'm here in Uyo. I came in yesterday. I'm rushing back tomorrow to Lagos because we are getting the land. Since morning, I only rushed out of the site to come and attend to this. Since morning, we've been in the bush. We are clearing, we are mapping out, we are working because we want to start the procurement process. We have a very tedious and procurement process because we are a government agency. And it's not about cronies, it's about who can deliver. And I wish some of you will come and apply to be builders for FHA. You run because we are not in a budget. We needed to have enough money to be able to start.
Because this question was on infrastructure.
No, she said two things. No, she said it was a two-step question. First was, the second one is the easiest. As a policy, FHA as a policy. Sometimes they mix up different estates. You cannot go to any FHA estate that does not start with infrastructure.
Okay,
All
I think
our
you have
estates,
answered it. That's what you really
yes,
wanted to know, whether
we
you
start
put
with
infrastructures in place.
infrastructure. Yes,
All right, great.
infrastructure. We do
Thank
that.
you.
Then we go to
Jumoke,
build.
let's take the next set here.
Okay, so we have 3 more, and again, we are going to ask even your response, sir, because we are up on time to keep it succinct as well. May we have Pastor Awolowo, please? Pastor Funke, please go ahead and ask your question.
Okay. Hello, thank you. Thank you very much for your passion. I feel your passion, but I'm going to admit that I'm a bit irked by your comments on the INEC, red eyes and all that, because you made a distinction between an appointment and an elected person. You know, and we know that INEC usually are appointed by the government of the day. And this is something we've been trying to fight for over time. And this allegiance, this what I hear you do, what you're doing constantly here is really defending the government. And I want to tell you that your first call is to the people of Nigeria. Your first call, your commitment by anybody that is serving in government is government by the people, for the people, and mainly through the people. So really, I need, somebody said, show me your friend, and I'll tell you who you are. I see a protection analysis here, a defensive mechanism, and I'm truly irked by it. You know, the other questions I want to ask, I'll leave it for another day. But I need you to reenact your commitment to Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have Mr. Akinleye? Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, Sister Jumoke. Thank you very much, the Honorable Speaker. Thank you for coming here today. I don't know whether you are on a 4-year or 5-year term with your appointment. Time will go very, very fast. If I may quickly suggest or ask you, you know, the first questions Brad Sonny asked you is about the gap between what is in existence and what you are going to do. That gap is very important. You know the population of the youth looking for housing right now? If you don't know, I can tell you, I mean, you are familiar with Lagos. Everyone knows how many people are in Lagos right now. 35 million people living in Lagos. Housing is very challenging. And our youth who have graduated for more than 10, 15 years still haven't been able to have enough money to build houses. If FHA, during your time of 4 or 10 years, or let's say 4 or 5 years, if you can just help 10,000 people alone to get affordable housing, do you know how far that will go? Please, if you can help us. You know, in the United States here, every house that is being sponsored by FHA, not only do first-time homeowner, they get 3% down payment only to be able to get housing. And it's very affordable for first-time homeowner, like our kids who are coming, who are just graduate, they have access to housing. And most of the housing apartments here already furnished. You don't have to start buying refrigerator, carpeting, and all the rest. So if you can provide something within your time to help the youth get affordable housing, that will be really helpful to the youth who are about to get their life, you know, starting, you know, marriage and all that. So that's number one. Number two, remember I mentioned about the funding, you know, down payment affordable. You mentioned about the Federal Mortgage Bank. I don't know how you both under the same housing authority can collaborate and work together and engage the youth to have access to funds so that they can build their own house. Or even if they want to rent places, the down payment requirement from landlords, 2-year down payment, how are they going to get it? 3-year down payment, how are they going to get it? So please, that one, and access to funding to be able to build their own house with very good interest rate. Here, as I mentioned to you, 3% interest rate is what they're going to ask for them for FHA. In Nigeria, I cannot imagine if you get 10 to 15.
Okay,
So
sir.
if
Thank
you
you.
can,
Thank you, Mr. Akinleye, for advocating for the
we-
youth. Really
we're
appreciate
looking
that.
for time,
okay.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
please, those two things, you can do that. And
Okay.
hopefully, I wish you the best. And I can see that you are passionate. Another thing, last thing is that we have many people
Please
who are
round up.
available.
10 seconds. 10 seconds.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
sorry.
I will reach out to you. Please provide your email for us so that
Yes.
any other suggestion we can reach out to you.
Yes.
Thank you. Professor Grange, please. Again, we are up on time, so everyone, thank you.
Thank you, Jumoke, and thank you, Architect Itok.
Thank you.
You have actually, well, I want to commend your effort. You've actually illustrated one big problem in administration.
Is it her or is it me? Did we lose her audio?
From her, I believe.
Okay. So why don't you just answer those questions and then we'll group her to the last. We have two more. So if you can just
okay, did you lose my audio?
Yeah, we lost your audio. Yes, ma'am.
Can I continue?
Yeah, if you can just yes,
So-
ma'am.
Yes, okay. So what I have said is that Architect Etok has now highlighted one major problem in the administration of government. And that is that we have an appointed, we have a ministry. And most times when we are asking for returns and what the ministry is doing, we face the ministry. But under the ministry, you have agencies and boards, etc. Now, Architect Etok is lucky in that his board has been sequestrated to a point where he can do his own work. He can account for what he has done directly to the president. Actually, if we are to be correct with administration, all the agencies that he has mentioned should have been under the ministry so that there is coordination and integration of all this. So that when we are now asking for what the ministry has done, this will have to be coordinated. And that's why you're having problems with funding. There is there's a funding board, there's this and the infrastructure board, etc. Why is it that we cannot integrate them or at most coordinate so that, we will not, we as citizens will be able to hold the principal responsible? I have a problem with that.
Okay.
In that the principal obviously wants to show what he's doing through one of the agencies, one or two of the agencies, because he's able to appoint somebody who can work very well in that agency. So there is a big problem.
Thank you, Ma. If we don't, sorry, I don't like cutting
Okay,
you.
Architect
Know
Ito,
that.
please, can you address that?
So if you
that
can
area?
address all those
Yes,
architects briefly so that we can take the last two
Okay.
and start to-
Number
Thank you, sir.
number one, from Pastor Awolowo, Funke, Madam Funke. There's something called emotional intelligence. If somebody has given you an appointment, it's just wise if you have access to the person like you do, that you channel your energy that way. And when you come to the public, you tell the public and give account of what you are doing. That's what I've tried to do here. He's not to come and say, oh, the president hasn't done this and then play to the gallery. He's not wise. And wisdom is profitable to direct. So I see something good, and I believe that one or two people will say, if FHA is actually doing this, it means that that's something good. And I believe that that is my position to show that there is actually something good. And at the risk of chiding my other people, I believe that if other public office holders came and not just become praise singers, but give specific account on details on what they are doing. There are many people that are listening to them and they're like, whoa, okay, we didn't know that. We didn't know that. Nigerians are good people. Let them know what you are doing specifically and that. Then Mr. Akinleye, we actually have 4 years and talk is cheap, I will say with you. We've only been here for about less than 6 months out of 4 years. We've done digitalization. We've gotten the lands that we need. We are about to open a portal that will be able to give us exact needs of the people. We've raised the funds that we needed to take off, and we are starting with the pilots based on the funds that we have. That's why I'm here in Uyo. And I believe that within this month of August, latest September, we are starting groundbreaking and we are giving ourselves 1 year completion for each of the phases that we are doing. I think that at the end of 1 year, Nigerians should ask us again at the end of 1 year for Federal Housing Authority. And then finally, for Prof, there's actually that synchronization. Federal Housing Authority, Federal Mortgage Bank are under Ministry of Housing. We give our report to them. And if you go to Ministry of Housing, you should be able to get this report. But we are also independent and we are not on a budget. As a result, we also speak to the people direct so that they can have confidence in us and relate with us. And I want to say this, that FHA has had a reputation of having, there's not one abandoned FHA estate, apart from Odupani and Goningora, of 50 estates. All our estates are live estates. They've started deteriorating and we are coming with the sustainability policy to make it. So FHA actually does have a name that we need to kind of justify that name because it's like it was starting to fade.
Okay, thank you, sir. And I'm going to add the second part of Mr. Akinleye's question to this last set so that you can answer it. He talked about the youth, and they are the most forgotten demographic of our nation. And I think they make, no, not I think, they make the highest population. So please include that. They are a priority for us. As a nation, they should be a priority for us as a nation. So please include that in these questions. Mr. Charles, please go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you, Madam Jumoke. Architect Inya, congratulations on your appointment. I don't envy you too much, but that said, you know, I think part of what you're hearing is there's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of frustration in the country. There's a lot of frustration among some of us that are watching what is going on. And I came on this call today because I thought the title was about holding people accountable. And so the question I would have for one of the questions I have for you, I'll try to keep it to one, because you have been involved. You were very involved in the last presidential election. Many of us were surprised at the turn of events in certain aspects of the country. I'm not going to name names, but I want to ask you, because of the outcome of some of those activities, what's your position on the number of political parties we have in the country today? Because that's part of where all the confusion starts from. That's where all the money changing hands and people being brushed aside, and then who do you hold accountable? Is it INEC? Is it the parties? Who should we hold accountable? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Auntie Yemisi, good evening, ma. Please go ahead with your question.
Good evening, everyone. Jumoke, Pastor, Mr. Architect Ntok. I'm always very, very encouraged by your passion and the enthusiasm you bring to the issues you are focused on, housing in particular. I mean, you are known almost globally for this, and to have this opportunity, I think you must feel like your nightmare has come true. You have actually been challenged to deliver on something that you have been advocating on for so long. Now, my question, so I want to thank you for taking on that responsibility and definitely wishing you every success. My question is, from my observation about my people, I tend to see that the barriers to their ability to hold government officials accountable is related to the culture. The culture that doesn't actually prepare citizens to hold officers in government or elsewhere accountable. At home, children cannot question their parents as they do in other democracies, which we're trying to copy. In the office, there's usually the bosses, is the king, and often most people cannot challenge their bosses. Now, in your office, are you beginning to build that culture of accountability even within the FHA itself? Is there a whistleblowers policy? Is there enough training going on to allow those who are working within the public service itself to make the corrections that are needed to deliver on the services that will benefit Nigerians? And finally, I would want to say that until Nigerians understand that the president, the governor, chairman, director, I don't remember what your position is, whoever has any office within the public sector are not their parents. They're not their fathers. They're not their mothers. They're the servants whose salary they're paying. And, it might be difficult for them, for Nigerians themselves. This topic is about us holding these officers accountable. So until Nigerians themselves, are able to find the right tools and posture to hold their government officials accountable, it's going to be difficult and it's going to take a mindset. So I would like your thoughts about how we can do that reorientation of getting that capacity within the citizenry to hold government. And if you can give maybe one or two ideas about the baby steps they can take. Is it letters they should write? Is it telephone calls? Is it when they meet them in the church or in the mosque? So I've already written the letter that is going to say, Mr. So and so, this is the problem. Can you please solve it? Instead of when they meet them, they usually put their hand behind their back and say, yes, sir. How are you, sir? How's the wife and children? So just some of the ideas that you may have about how we can equip the citizenry to understand that very, very important role of the office of the citizen that has the responsibility of holding government officials accountable. Thank you once again for all that you've done in the past and all that we're expecting you to do. We certainly, people like me, as you know, will hold your feet to the fire. Well done, and thank you for coming to speak with us.
Thank you,
today.
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. So you can take all those now, and
yes.
then yes, sir.
Yeah, Ms. Akinleye's question. I don't know how I could have skipped that. In fact, in Nigeria, I'm known as National Youth Headmaster. And you check my profile, one of the things that I am very passionate and I have very good record at this risk of sounding immodest, whether it's not too young to run, whether youth participation in politics, I am the person that opened the door to youth participation in politics in Nigeria when I, against all odds, registered the Young Democratic Party. I was a pioneer national chairman of Young Democratic Party that evolved to become the Young Progressives Party, YPP, and the Young People's Party. Before then, they refused as a law not to use the word young in getting a party. I got that. I was national chairman for a year and I handed over to the youth. Then the not too young to run. Everything for me has been about the youth because I started very early. I waited at 25. At 45, two of my sons were graduates from Covenant University. At 50, my last child graduated. from the same university, while my first son had a master's from University of Manchester. So at 50, I had finished work. You know, that means by the time I was, imagine at 45, your two sons are graduates. In Nigeria, at 45, you are still youth. Meanwhile, youth having two graduates as children. So I started very early. So my passion is with the young people and everything. And we've brought that into housing. For the first time, there's a definite policy for first-time home owners. So we are building a lot of studios and one-bedroom apartments in our scheme of things, and 2 bedrooms. We are not too heavy with all these 3 bedrooms, maisonettes. Yes, there's a section for that because we build for all Nigerians. But I cannot tell you for as of today, from Mr. President to my minister to my MD, we are all on agreement that these first-time home owners must have a priority in what we are doing. So, sir, we actually, and then Mr. President again. You see, I've been talking, Mr. I actually feel that we have done that man a lot of disservice. Today is not the day for that. Mr. President has given a 2 trillion window for infrastructure and housing. And within housing, he's giving us National Housing, Federal Mortgage Bank, and Federal Housing Authority, where we are able to have, for the first time, sustainable 30-year, 25-year, 20-year mortgage based on the provision that has been made. So we need to open up this window for the young people to apply and then get houses, because we already have windows open that is there from Mr. President. You know, so for me, I'm talking facts. It's not, oh, Mr. President is the best thing that has happened to Nigeria after a bank war. That's not what I'm saying. What he has done right, it is my place to say this and this and this. And what he's not doing right is the place of the office of the citizen on the outside, and my place on the inside to say this is not okay. And there are many places that I've said this is not okay. And government policies have changed on account of the position I've taken internally. I don't need to come out and make noise about it. Anyway, then we come to Mr. Charles. How do we hold people accountable, which has also dovetailed, as it were, to that of my sister Ransom Kuti. You see, the very first thing is the mind. As a man thinks in his heart, so is it. And a program like this, and I want to thank Pastor Itwa, because on a weekly basis, he brings people in. I think there's going to be a section where you're going to be bringing public office holders to talk about what they are doing. Specific, what are you doing? Tell us this, tell us that. Don't, and maybe about 6 months after, bring them back. Like I expect, by the grace of God, if that opportunity, let them bring me back 6 months after. Play back the things I said as a beginning and said, what has changed? And if nothing has changed, let's know nothing has changed. If I come and blow a lot of grammar again, I expect, and I'm saying this at my honor, my integrity, on my integrity, that in 6 months, I will not come here to say we are going to. I'll be saying we have in Akwa Ibom done this. We have in Cross River done this. You have in Kaduna, because our starting points, we have Cross River, we have Akwa Ibom, we have Kaduna, we have Gombe, we have Jos, we have, you understand? We want to be able to say we have done this. Yes. So the holding our people accountable is on a platform like this, where you ask specific questions. Number 2 is enlightening the citizens to know that it is their right to know. We've been so subservient. You know, I'm from Akwa Ibom, and the way that a man that has nothing to do with government, the way he fears government people, it's as if he makes money, and yet he doesn't have anything from government. He has, in the past 20 years, he has received nothing from them, but he cannot speak up his mind. To the extent that when you speak like I speak, they call me Mr. Independent-minded. So I think that empower the people to be able to say their mind, but let them say it not as anger. Respectfully. Mm-hmm. Respectfully. You see, let me end on this. Mm-hmm. Let me end on this. Go and watch that video I did again. That's Mr. President Corruption. I did that video over a year ago. You cannot see one line where I was disrespectful respectful to Mr. President. I wasn't his appointee. I wasn't in his party. I was just saying it's not okay. And I will still say today that this problem, we need to be on the double inside us, within the FHA and the EMC. We must, of necessity, give Nigerians houses. We must. We must. They must see in the coming month, within September, they must see groundbreaking and houses coming up. That's the way we can make the president look good. Not talk. Talk is cheap.
Thank you so much. And before I hand over to Pastor Sonny, I just also want to let you know that we do have a School of Leadership at ALG, and part of our goal is to train government or agencies such as yours on the civic responsibility of every citizen, because they're also citizens, right? They have to understand the rules of engagement. We also teach project management. In fact, we graduated a bunch of NYSC in project management. So we're doing this as part of our give back to the nation. It's a consultative service, it's partnership. We as stakeholders, we are engaged, we give of our time to make your agency be better for the good of Nigeria. So that's something that we would like to engage you on, to see how we can work with
Please,
you.
we need that partnership.
That
we
training.
need that partnership.
Yeah, so we definitely, we'll talk offline. Pastor Sonny and I will probably have a follow-up meeting with you to really see how we can work with you, even getting some of our youth corpers that have taken some of this training, whether it's in volunteer capacity, wherever they are, we can talk about that. And so I just want to also make an announcement, following up on the School of Leadership and good governance that we have here at ALG. We teach the Citizens Responsibility course, and we are actually starting this campaign. A few people have taken it. It's like a 6-week program, is a six-week model that goes through the Constitution, your rights as a citizen, and how you need to engage. Information is power. You can't engage government without understanding their functions and operations. So that's part of what we do here at School of Leadership and Governance. So please go ahead, fill that form in the link. I put a link in the chat room for you to engage with ALG, and we're always, thank you, sir, for doing this. I know you are you're part of ALG, but for you to come in as an official, public official is a big deal to us, and we'll take you up on that offer. And in 6 months again, we will have a scorecard to see, this is the benchmark. How have you progressed? And you become a role model for other government agencies or public officials. So thank you for your time. And to everyone, please, this is such important information. Share with your network, share the flyer, share the information. Again, it's not about us getting more people, but it's getting more people informed and engaged in the basics of nation building. We meet here every Thursday, 5 p.m. Nigerian time. Same Zoom link, different topic and different guest speakers. So we'll expect to see you again, whether you get the flyer or not. Please save that. We're glad you could join us this evening. Thank you very much. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Jumoke. Time is fast spent. Architect Etuk, any final words you want to leave us with before we close off?
One,
yes,
I want to thank you, thank Pastor Itwa, thank this program. Two, we need partnerships from all areas. Please don't wait. Government no get the kind of solution you think they get to, they no get. When I entered, I discovered that one of the best things I did was coming into government, because you'll be shocked that they have no program, they have no idea, they just campaign and came in. So please partner with government any way you can. In housing, I'm looking for strategic partnerships. So please come in, anything you can do. And then please, finally, hold the feet of FHA to the fire. We want it so that at the end of this little time that I have, posterity will say a man was there. And it comes with partnerships with people like you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. We hope that you will be an exception, and we'll have many more exceptions, because at our age and in Nigeria, we've seen a lot of good-willed people go into government, they come out frustrated, they come out with a lot of terrible stories. We're going to be praying for you. Like you said, Esther said, that you will pray, we will pray. You have a good mind, you'll be able to deliver, you know, and we're really looking forward to you doing what you promised. And to everybody on the platform, I would say holding political, you know, or just leaders, public officers, leaders is crucial for a healthy democracy. Why? Because it ensures that power is transparent and used responsibly. The people feel responsible and accountable. But when we relax and we don't ask questions, you know, people just do what they like. And sadly, in this country, our leaders have not been very open with us. So, and the press plays a crucial role. We need a press to help us. We need good organizations like ALG that can push the voice of people. And we need to. That's the only way democracy will work. That's why people get frustrated sometimes and say, who can hold these leaders accountable? And for a lot of people that are not informed, they just think it's only the military in their head that can come and get these people. But we are doing that by what we are doing on a weekly basis. And we are also, by the way, trying to go into secondary schools, trying to teach them, you know, responsible citizenship. From that level, begin to reorientate them that, look, you can begin to do certain things as you grow up, you know, because we need to put all those curriculum in place. And we discovered that going down to the level of schools is very crucial. And as many people that are part of us and want to work with us, please contact Jumoke. We are ready to work with everyone, and we must make sure that this democracy works in Nigeria. So, Architect, we'll set up a meeting to meet with you and see how else we can work. To every other person, thank you very much for spending your time with us. Have a good evening. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll meet again next week. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. Privilege.
Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations again. Appointment.
Pray for me. Pray.
Very, very
Pastor
important.
Sonny has anointed you. He has decreed it, and it is great success. I wish you great success. But you know,
All
on
right.
easy lies the head that wears the crown, right?
Yeah, I'm ready for it.
But
All right.
God grace
bless you all.
abound.
God bless.
Thank
Yeah,
you so
thank
much.
very
God bless you.
Jimmy, well, thank you. God
Uncle
bless you.
Loga,
all.
welcome. Well done.
We'll talk.
Thank you all, everyone. We're so glad you could join us this evening. I'm going to stop recording. So glad you could join us, and you a very beautiful evening, and same time next week. If you haven't filled the form, please go ahead and fill the form to engage ALG. I will contact you.
All right.
All right. So I would be ending the session now. Thank you all so much. Have a good evening, and God bless you.